What's up everybody, my name is Big Cam and welcome back to another Theory Time video. And today we're going to be talking Spider-Man Brand New Day spoilers and that post-credit scene, and I'm going to try to explain my best of what's happening in that post-credit scene. Is it a reference to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in Avengers Doomsday? Is it teasing something else entirely? Is it teasing Secret Wars? We really don't know. And you know, there's still a lot of unanswered questions from that at the end of that movie. Is Peter still messed up in his head with all like the arachnid hormones taking over his body, and is he really going to become Man-Spider in the future? It wasn't necessarily resolved, although you might be able to see it as, you know, those powers by the end of the movie, he kind of figured out how to control them, so maybe he doesn't need to have the inhibitor chip anymore. But he certainly was getting stronger and a little bit more aggressive with that spider DNA in this movie, and you know, his senses were going off the fritz as we saw him like holding his ears and like everything sounded crazy. So if this Spider-Man still has that strength and he still has that reflexes and he still can have his senses dialed up to 11, I genuinely, you know, I don't know why, but seeing that scene with his senses really made me want this Spider-Man and Daredevil to have a whole team-up movie, the same kind of way like him and Punisher were teaming up this whole movie, right? Like, I want Matt Murdock to get out of prison in Daredevil Born Again Season 3, and I want him and Spider-Man to link up and be homies, because there's no way him and Frank should be best old pals, and Spider-Man and Daredevil can't be best old pals, kicking ass, being superheroes together. But then there's the Frank question of it all. Is Frank just walking around New York free? You know, like, he's the Punisher, is he not? Is he still a vigilante? I don't, like... And then I saw somebody posing this question as well, and they were like, listen, if you were a cop in New York City and you saw Frank Castle, you'd probably think twice before just trying to arrest him, right? Like, if you were going to walk up to Frank Castle and just be like, you're under arrest, there's a good chance he kills you, right? Like, so maybe cops are just kind of like, hey, Frank Castle, I don't want to mess with that, I like my life. Or, we did see in Daredevil Born Again Season 2 that a lot of these cops were like Punisher fanboys. So almost like, I wonder if the mayor's office was like, arrest Punisher on sight, but all of those cops that are Punisher fanboys are like, yeah, okay, we'll arrest him if we see him, and then they see Frank in the street and they just kind of give him a salute and keep on moving. You know, I don't know, but that definitely is so fascinating, like, how him and, like, I also want to know the whole Staten Island story with Frank and Tom's Peter. Like, what happened there? Why was Peter out in Staten Island saving Frank from a drug dealer or something? Was like, as much as I heard about that backstory, as the two of them were over talking each other trying to explain it to MJ, and she just looks at the both of them like, I would like to go home. Like, I don't know what you two morons are talking about and bickering about, but he definitely, Mr. Frank Castle, he definitely felt bad about shooting Peter Parker at the end of the movie. And this might be the only person he's ever shot in his life that he's felt bad about. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, oh shit, I was mean to kill that little girl, which was perfectly fine in Frank's head. Yeah, let me shoot this little girl. She's hurting people. That's fine. Yeah, so what? She's a teenage little girl. You know, his son's in the back of Frank's mind going, shoot her, daddy. You know, like, and then Peter jumps in front of him and he goes, not him, daddy, why you shot Spider-Man? You know, like, his poor son in his brain's going, get him, daddy. Ooh, he's telling me to get him. Right, and then the last thing we see of Frank in this movie, he's up in the window with Spider-Man's mask on going, ooh. So, I love that scene too so much. They like, if you watch my review on Friday after I saw the movie for the first time on Thursday, my initial instinct walking out of the theater was like, almost, it gave me the same instincts that like Thor Love and Thunder did, where we sat through that entire movie and we were like, that was awesome. But by the time we got to the car, we had all these like thoughts that we have now thought about, like, oh yeah, they didn't do this and they could have done this in the comic and they could have made Gore the God Butcher butcher gods. Like, there was a lot of stuff in Thor Love and Thunder that they didn't do that we all wish they did, and instead they kind of just made this kids film. So in my initial review, I was pretty harsh on this movie. I was saying all the things that I didn't like about what Sony and Marvel did and the decisions they made to just kind of not adult it up. And even though Peter is now fully an adult, they're still like kidding down a lot of the action, you know. And it's like, we want to see a bloody, beat up, cut up suit like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 1. His suit, by the end of that movie, when he's fighting Green Goblin, is destroyed. He's got cut marks across his stomach, his suit's all messed up, his mask, one eye is showing, so you can see Peter's face under there, and it's like, that is the type of stuff that is maybe still missing even after my second time watching. But as I saw it again the second time over the weekend, and I've thought about it more and more, and I've really been in such a Spider-Man kick that I haven't really been watching other movies. I've been watching Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse a bunch because I was doing videos this weekend for those figures. And like, you know, so I was just really in a Spider-Man kick all week, and it's, you know, stemmed from last Friday, you know, going to see this movie. And after seeing this movie for a second time, I do think the score has gone up. I think it's probably about a 4.5 out of 5 stars, probably about a 9 out of 10, where originally I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. You know, so 4.5, it went up a half star. It's about a 9 out of 10 for me now. And I genuinely think it's one of the best looking Spider-Man movies, like visually wise. It's maybe one of the best Marvel movies ever, right? Like, the visuals in this movie are beautiful. Beautiful cinematography. The suit looks so good. The amount of stuff they did practical, so like it doesn't just look like a CGI mess. It really pays off. Even if eventually they do it practically and then they have to take it over in CGI and do it all in the computer, at least with that reference video, it just makes everything look so much better. And the practical swinging, the practical fights, they just all looked so good, man. Dustin Daniel Cretton really killed it. And then I said in that video that I thought the Jackie Chan stunt team worked on this movie, but Dustin Daniel Cretton recently said that he didn't work on the movie, although he did visit the set. But the real stunt team was the same stunt team from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which, you know, that stunt team was phenomenal. So yeah, of course, that same stunt team worked on this movie with Dustin Daniel Cretton again, and they killed it maybe even harder than the fights in Shang-Chi. But that's maybe one thing that I'm like, why can't we get Shang-Chi and Spider-Man together, right? Like, what if Shang-Chi was teaching Spider-Man more hand-to-hand combat, right? Like, and not just relying on his webs, right? Like, what if he genuinely taught Spider-Man Kung Fu, so the next time we see Spider-Man, he's an even more elite level hand-to-hand fighter, where he already is, but it's mostly reflexes and, like, reaction time. Where imagine, like, he could just, like, walk up, throw a side kick, and just knock somebody through a wall, and you're just like, oh shit, Spider-Man, you know, like, that would be sick. I don't know, I kind of still want Shang-Chi too, but I would rather have seen Shang-Chi show up in this Spider-Man movie. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I still want Dustin Daniel Cretton to go on and do Shang-Chi 2, and hopefully he does that next, while he's also working on Spider-Man 5, because we cannot wait 5 years for Tom Holland Spider-Man. I need the next movie tomorrow, like, genuinely. But at least we have things to look forward to, like the X-Men movie that we know is coming out probably in 2028, but maybe December of 2027 if Secret Wars gets pushed. But we do know that the first X-Men casting for that movie will be Sadie Sink's Jean Grey. And poor Jean in this movie, like, that whole torture scene at the DODC was really messed up, where she sees VMAX was really just a vent in that room. Oh, that was devastating, right? Like, the whole time in my head I was picturing VMAX, and I just dropped the V and I was focusing on the Max. I was like, oh, it's something, whatever the V stands for, Max Security. And I was thinking that her sister was locked up in, like, you know, almost like a mental asylum type of thing, like a padded room that she's locked into, almost kind of like the Raft, where they have currently the Red Hulk and the leader that we saw at the end of the post-credit scene for Captain America Brave New World. You know, and Jean, you know, I love that scene that she had with Peter sitting on his bed, and, like, she was talking to Aunt May, right, because she was an orphan, like, her mother died when they were kids, so her and her sister were bouncing through foster care. So she's talking to Aunt May, getting the advice that Aunt May gave to Tom, but like the way that she was hugging Aunt May, and Aunt May's like, you're beautiful, you're gonna be great, don't worry, you know, like, and just the support she really needed from a child, but like she never had, and Aunt May was able to be that like encouraging motherly voice to Jean Grey, even though it's through Tom's mind. I thought that scene was beautiful, and the fact that they brought Marissa Tomei back after killing her in the last movie crushed me even harder. And then like Tom sits down on the bed next to her, and this is the same bed from Captain America Civil War that Tony Stark sat down next to Peter and began his mentorship of this young Spider-Man. And I don't know if Spider-Man is going to be in that mentor role for Jean Grey, but at least he's going to be like a big brother, like at least a friend that she just didn't have. Like she was on her own and she was alone, and she's like, I don't have anybody, and he's like, you got me, you know, like, oh, such a beautiful scene. And there was lots of beautiful scenes in this, lots of heartbreaking scenes. Like I was devastated when Jean took over MJ in that scene, and like I thought we were getting the Peter Parker and MJ rekindling that we all want so bad, but instead Jean Grey just plays with our emotions and completely fucks it and throws her off a building. I was like, what in the Joker shit is going on here? It was practically like the Joker dropping Rachel out the window in The Dark Knight. Like, oh my god, like, and Batman leaps after her, Peter leaps after MJ and catches her, but like, you know, crash lands, thinks that MJ got hurt, but she's just like unconscious. Oh my god. Oh my god, like so many good scenes. Like that whole scene of like Peter in their apartment and the Tom and Paula song that comes on, I think it's called Loser, and it's just like the bum, ba-na-na-na, bum, do-do-do-do-dum. Like it's just like this like couple minute scene, and this song's just playing in the background, just absolutely jamming. And I've been absolutely bumping to this song numerous times. Every time I get in the car, I put it on, and I'm like, just, it brings me back to Spider-Man Brand New Day, but it also just like such a vibe of a song, like just an absolute bop. But like, the fact that Peter sees MJ kiss her new boyfriend, and then that is what sets him off and like sets him into this like crisis that he's having. You know, he's so isolated and so alone that the spider DNA inside of him starts taking over and affecting him and like coming out in crazy ways. Like absolutely nuts, man. But, you know, there's still hope, because, you know, even though she says that she doesn't love him, and like, I can see why the person that you wrote this letter for, oh, that's another thing. MJ finds the letter that like he didn't want her to see, clearly, because he would have gave it to her like multiple times now if he wanted her to see it, but he just knew deep down inside that this was not going to be the way to get MJ's heart back. Like she's just too smart for that. And, you know, she's like, I don't have any of these memories. And like, even Jean goes, wow, there isn't a single thought of you in here. But there clearly has to be, because of the way that like she like, you know, tells him we can't be together, I don't love you, and then like makes him swing her home, and then goes, you want to come up and talk to Ned? And then is drawing Peter by memory, even though he has his suit on, and she draws the older, you know, earlier movie Spider-Man suit in Tom's face by memory. And then she's sitting on the rooftop of, what is that, Midtown High or whatever, which was their like spot, which was like, you know, the top of the roof, and they used to meet up, and that was like their spot to get away. And for some reason she's up there by herself, and she's looking off into the sunset, and she's holding on to the Black Dahlia necklace. So I don't know if she has truly no feelings for Peter, or if they're so deep down in there and she just doesn't know why. She can feel like something's missing, but she doesn't know what, you know, like, but you know, I would think that she would put it together that it's probably Peter at this point. But I don't know if like that scene at the end of the movie, I kind of saw it as like, this whole time she might have been saying to Peter, like, I don't have any memories of you, but I feel like she does, right? Like, even the way that she said to Ned early in the movie, like, I think I'm waiting for something great, and she looks at Peter when she says it. It's like, yeah, you're waiting for your original love, your man's. And like, I love Imanes Fondi, but the fact that he like kissed Zendaya in front of Tom in that movie, I was like, what the fuck? Oh, I was like, oh, poor Tom, what a tough moment. And then of course it sends him on his emotional arc for the rest of the movie, and I'm like, yeah, no, that would have fucked me up too, Tom, don't worry about it. But yet again, those visuals, like the sunset of her sitting on that rooftop was beautiful. The shot of him sitting on this like beam looking out at New York with the sunset in the background was a beautiful shot as well. Although I think Avengers Tower should be in the background here, but it's not for some reason. Maybe that is a sign for that post-credit scene that, like, maybe Avengers Tower got teleported somewhere else. Maybe, maybe not, who knows? Maybe it's just not in this shot because the visual effects artist didn't know where it should have been. I don't know. It did feel like all the New York we saw in this movie, though, with him swinging around. It felt like maybe there should have been Avengers Tower in the background of one of those shots, but it is what it is. He was in various different spots of New York in this movie. And before we get into, like, the post-credit scene and what I think that means, let's just touch on Jean Grey a little bit more. Because at the end of that movie, we saw Sadie Sink on a bus heading upstate New York, possibly. And, you know, wherever she's heading, she's going to be showing up probably in Secret Wars next. But the Jean that they're setting up is definitely, you know, a Jean that doesn't have an X-Men. You know, she's slightly younger than the Jeans previous that we had, you know, and she's going to be like the face of this team probably. And just recently they announced like the casting of Kit Connor for the X-Men Cyclops, you know, so those two will probably be the couple in the future. And Cyclops will hook up with Sadie Sink's clone to make Cable, which is just crazy. Like, already, like, if you just play the comics out, you're like, oh, wait, what the fuck? Like, Sadie Sink, you gonna be a mama to Cable. And I think they're also parents to Rachel Summers in the comics, but I haven't necessarily seen that character in live action. Maybe in X-Men 97, but maybe not. There's only one episode left for season 2 of that, and it's been really good so far. But I love how there's been more and more castings for the X-Men coming out, and it seems like the first piece of the puzzle for them was Jean Grey, and maybe it was just because she was going to be in Spider-Man, but I don't see Marvel putting one of their biggest characters. Like, this is a Spider-Man movie, sure, but this is also a Jean Grey, Hulk, and Punisher movie. A lot more than it is like a Spider-Man movie. You know, like, it is a Spider-Man movie, but like by the end of the movie, you're like, is this more of a Jean Grey movie? Like, Sony, you're making out like bandits here with this like Spider-Man deal. But maybe this just, you know, Marvel knew that everyone would go see Spider-Man Brand New Day. So it's probably the biggest setup moment that they can have for the future going forward. And if they're not going to be setting up directly Avengers Doomsday, they might as well set up X-Men, which is going to be their next big tentpole movie coming forward. And with the post-credit scene being Ned's Spidey tracker, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, a new sighting found, and it shows like a sighting in Queens, New York, and then it goes out to the middle of space and says, new sighting found, as like we see it head past the moon, and then it's just like out in space. And it doesn't show like a planet show up and then like that Spidey signal, you know, pop off there. But, you know, I'm just trying to think, is this Tom Holland's Peter? And is that what they're trying to say here? Are they saying that the next time we see Tom Holland's Peter Parker Spider-Man, he's going to be out in the middle of space? Ooh, and what could that mean? You know, like, so you're telling me, you know, if this is the case, Doctor Doom makes Battleworld, and then Peter Parker, like, as we go to Battleworld, all of a sudden we're just like, oh, Spider-Man, you know, like, there's no, how did he get here? There's no, like, him in New York in that movie. He's not with the new Avengers or anybody, right? So it just feels like, if anything, they're, like, sidelining Spider-Man just to have this cameo of Spider-Man in Battleworld, unless this is like the end of Doomsday and then we're setting up Secret Wars where Spider-Man will actually be a character in Battleworld, you know, and he'll probably actually be starring in that movie rather than be just one of 85 people that are going to be in Avengers Doomsday, which I know like the cast for Secret Wars is probably going to be even bigger. But, you know, I don't know, man. I think they're still kind of filming the last bits and pieces of Avengers Doomsday. Like, I don't even know if they've fully wrapped on Avengers Doomsday yet, and yet they have to start filming pretty damn soon for Secret Wars, and then they'll have to be editing Doomsday during that process, and then Doomsday comes out in December, so we're only a few months out from this, and yet we've still only gotten the one trailer. And yeah, it's just fascinating to me, like, this post-credit scene in Spider-Man is interesting, but I would have wanted a second post-credit scene, and I think I still stand by that after my second viewing. As interesting as this little spider tracker is, and it did do one thing that I love, which is we haven't had in a long time the speculation of everybody on the internet. And constantly, every day since Spider-Man Brand New Day's come out, I open up Twitter, and every single day there's a new theory and a new idea of like, oh, well, what if Spider-Man comes here? And what if Jean Grey goes there? And what if the Hulk is here? And, you know, there's just so many ideas flowing out of people's brains and like just speculating what's this gonna be and where could this go next. And I find it absolutely fascinating that it's back, you know, like we're back to speculating where we're heading next, and we're excited about it, you know. And like this really didn't happen from the post-credit scene in Thunderbolts, where like we saw the Fantastic Four coming in. We kind of just were like, okay, Fantastic Four is the next movie, right? Like it didn't spark this conversation online, right? Like, and I think the excitement heading into Avengers Doomsday is really there. And I hope that that post-credit scene in Thunderbolts and the post-credit scene in Doomsday really does pay out, you know, like, and I'm sure it will, like that will probably be one of the opening scenes for, you know, both those post-credit scenes will probably be the opening scenes for Avengers Doomsday, right? Like Doom will probably be talking to baby Richard, Franklin Richards in the Fantastic Four Baxter building in their universe, and maybe they take his son, and then the Fantastic Four teleport their ship into our universe, they come to the new Avengers for help, blah 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 blah, you know, like, and that's how those two post-credit scenes connect. And maybe that's only the first 20 some odd minutes of this movie, maybe half hour or something, I don't know. But what was still interesting to me is that in the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene, or one of them, they showed Tom Hardy's Venom just pop in, right? Like in his post-credit scene, he came to our universe and then it didn't do anything when he was here and then just went back, which is just like, okay, why did he show up? He was at a bar and then he just dipped, but he did leave a little tiny piece of Venom goo here in the MCU universe. So I thought for sure when Tom Holland's Spider-Man got shot, I thought they were going to leave him to die, and he was going to be a dead body on the ground, and then all of a sudden a little piece of goo would come out of the corner, attach itself to Peter, and bring him back to life, and we would have seen a dead body go, and that would have been the end of the movie, right? Or that would have been the end of the post-credit scene. That, to me, was the ending I was expecting, and then that didn't happen, and the ending we got with that post-credit scene, I think you can maybe see why I was so angry the first time I was reviewing this movie, where now I have that speculation and I have like the hope and like just the excitement again for the speculation and the theories to be flowing. And I'm sure we're going to have tons and tons and tons of X-Men theories as we head closer and closer into that new X-Men movie, into that new mutant saga after Secret Wars, right? Because I think Secret Wars is like going to be the close of the multiverse saga, and then we're going to head into this new universe afterwards where it's going to be like somewhat retconned, but then we're going to have probably the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Avengers. We're going to have all the pieces we want still in that universe, probably Spider-Man, Hulk, Punisher, Daredevil, you know what I mean, all those, but then we'll reboot and we might get, you know, a new Captain America, a new Tony Stark, you know, like, so those actors don't have to be 90 still playing the character like Hugh Jackman, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm absolutely fascinated to hear everyone's thoughts and theories on where they think Spider-Man is going to show up next, and what do you think that post-credit scene means? Like, do you think that that's just telling us, like, there was some people online saying that when the screen glitched, it shows a number, 96283, which is the home universe designation number for Earth 96283, which is Tobey Maguire's universe. So they're thinking that this second Spider-Man, you know, popping up in the middle of space is Tobey, which I find interesting. But also, like, why is the Spider app finding a Spider-Man in the middle of space? Isn't the Spider app kind of like Waze, where like someone cites Spider-Man and then puts it into the app and then that's how it's there, right? Like, I don't know why there's a Spider-Man in space. And if there is a Spider-Man in space, maybe they teleported Ned as well, and Ned's just like, oh, well, this is a new location. Let me mark Spider-Man on Waze. You know, like, I don't know who is the person using the spider tracker being like, oh, there's a Spider-Man here on Battleworld. Mark, you know, like, who is that? Is that Loki? Is it Ned? Is it Peter? Is it somebody else? Is it just a glitch entirely that has nothing to do with Spider-Man or the spider tracker or anything? It's just like them trying to tease that there's going to be a Spider-Man back in the middle of space. I don't know, man. I have no idea what this post-credit scene means, and the fact that it's the only one kind of pisses me off. But Dustin Daniel Cretton has said that we will get an answer to this, so maybe it is just tying into Avengers Doomsday, and it's as simple as, oh, that dot that was in a Spider-Man out in the middle of space, that's Doctor Doom's Battleworld. It is what it is. Or maybe potentially it's an Earth coming into our atmosphere and our space, and, you know, maybe it's another Earth, like it's a second Earth, and it's gonna have an incursion with ours. So maybe it's Tobey Maguire's Earth smashing into the MCU's Earth. I don't know. I find it fascinating whichever theory works out. I just am at the point now where I'm like, fuck, I want to see more. Right? Like, I don't want to just keep speculating. I just want more. I need, like, I'm fiending for some more Marvel Spider-Man at this moment. Whether it's, you know, more info coming at D23 in a couple weeks. Maybe Vision Quest has more to do with the Avengers Doomsday than we had thought previously. You know, I think Vision Quest is just going to be a self-contained show, but if it connects to Doomsday, that will blow my mind as well. You know, maybe Vision Quest is bringing back Wanda. You know, that could be a thing too. And then that would set up Avengers Doomsday, because I'm sure the Scarlet Witch is going to be a very powerful piece to Doctor Doom's team, which I could see happening. You know, I think that happens in the comics too. But really fascinating stuff, and I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this movie. And also, they just announced the other day that, like, this movie, you know, it hasn't been in IMAX because of Odyssey, so it's going to be in IMAX August 7th. So, you know, I'm thinking maybe let's go see it again, right? Like, August 7th is today when I'm filming this. It's also my sister's 30th birthday, so shout out my sister, Caitlin. Happy birthday. But, yeah, you know, like, maybe this weekend I'll go see this in IMAX. I did see it on a normal AMC theater, and then I saw it at a Dolby. I would say the Dolby theater was much better experience than the normal AMC, but they were both really good, you know? Like, I didn't necessarily notice anything in the Dolby that was, like, that drastically different than the regular AMC theater, other than the screen being bigger in certain spots. But for majority of the movie, it's not that different. But, like, during the web swinging sequence at the beginning of the movie, that extra Dolby screen looked spectacular. But yeah, so I can't wait to see Jean and Spider-Man and Punisher again. And, like, comment below, where do you think the Hulk is? Is the Hulk, they said, was going to some mental facility? I wasn't sure if we've seen a mental facility, like an Arkham Asylum type of thing. I don't think we've seen any mental facilities in the MCU. Potentially in Venom Let There Be Carnage, whatever that mental facility that Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, was at. Maybe, just maybe, that is the mental facility that they brought Bruce to. But I think whatever facility they would have brought in the Hulk to, they just want to keep him locked up because obviously the Hulk is dangerous. But, like, you know, this was a guy that was just a teacher at some college in you know, a professor at ESU in New York. So are they really going to sideline the Hulk and just be like, oh, he's in a mental facility? And, like, will that facility be able to hold the Hulk if he wants to break out? Like, I'm sure Bruce Banner's trying to keep him at bay, and maybe they have the inhibitor tech that Spider-Man created on him, so maybe he can't Hulk out again. But I have a feeling that maybe the Hulk got brought to the raft because that's the only thing that can house the Hulk, and if he breaks out, they just flood the facility because it's, like, under the ocean, you know what I mean? So even if he does break out, he's, like, at the bottom of the ocean, so he gets pressed down by the water with all the pressure down there. I don't know. I think maybe the Hulk would even be able to survive that. But either way, I think with the Red Hulk and Hulk both in the raft, if that's the case, that could be interesting. You know, maybe Doctor Doom brings the whole raft to Battleworld, and then the raft prisoners all break out and start fighting each other in the raft, and we get Hulk versus Red Hulk. that could be awesome. I don't know. Who else is in the raft? I think the leader. Comment below. Who else is in the raft as a prisoner? I mean, back in the day, it was like the Civil War crew with like Sam Wilson and Ant-Man and Scarlet Witch and whatnot, but they're not all still at the raft, right? So who's currently the inhabitants in the prisoners in the raft? I would love to hear your thoughts about everything down in the comment section below. Does Bruce and Peter and maybe even Punisher and Jean show up in Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars? If I had to say one, probably Secret Wars, but personally I want them both, and all of them, to be in both movies. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. At a certain point, you gotta think realistically, like, do they have the money to put Spider-Man, Hulk, and all of these characters all into one movie, and then it still come out in December? I mean, they do have the money and the resources, but I don't think they have the balls, the cojones, and the time, and the forethought to do this. You know what I mean? Like, it would just take too much planning and too much effort and time and energy that they're just not trying to do. You know, I feel like they've just gotten lazy with the last few years, and, you know, that's just kind of where Marvel's at, which is unfortunate, but kind of true. But thank you for joining me for another Theory Time video. I haven't done one of these in a while, so it feels good to get all my thoughts out there about Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I really appreciate anybody that stuck around and watched this video to the end, and I too would love to hear all of your thoughts and theories about Spider-Man Brand New Day and the X-Men and Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars as we're heading into those movies into 2027 and 2028. But I think that's it for me, y'all, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section, or you can send those to my other social media. Links for those down in the description below. And if you made it this far into the video and you would like to support the channel further, the best way of doing that is smashing the like button, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you don't miss future theory videos and breakdowns and all types of stuff coming to the channel, and you'll get the notifications when those come out. Once again, my name is Big Cam, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace!